On today's show, we are talking about Texas Rangers prospect, looking at the top 100s that have been released by various publications, where the Rangers prospects rank on those lists, and a little bit of news about the World Baseball Classic. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment any single thing below. Before we get into today's show, talking about some World Baseball Classic news and Rangers prospects, and a little bit of an issue I have with a certain different ESPN ranking that does not involve prospects. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. Now, yesterday, officially, the World Baseball Classic rosters were announced, and there are 3 Rangers participating. Only 2 of those are at the big league level, and 1 is a prospect. We start with lefty Martin Perez, will pitch for his home nation of Venezuela. Really great to see him coming off a fantastic year and going to be able to pitch for Venezuela. Very, very excited for him. Then we have reliever Jose Leclerc, who will be pitching for the Dominican Republic. There were a little bit of questions of if he would make that roster because he just had a kid, so we weren't quite sure if he was going to go down there for the World Baseball Classic, but turns out he is in. And one of the Rangers pitching prospects, Mitch Bratt, will pitch for Team Canada. Now, this isn't super confusing news. There was one Ranger that was also expected to be on the Team USA roster, and it might not be who you thought, unless you thought it was Nate Eovaldi, because it was announced months ago, month and a half, about 2 months ago, December 14th, about 2 weeks, maybe 15 days, I think, if you want to be specific, before he signed with the Texas Rangers. MLB tweeted out, Nate Eovaldi and Lance Lynn are hashtag all in for the World Baseball Classic, and it had them on Team USA, and it seemed like, yep, that's a surefire thing. They are going to go ahead and play for Team USA. But I think maybe part of the parameters of the Rangers deal, remember, he signed a 2-year, $34 million deal with the Rangers towards the end of December. It's also got bonuses and a vesting option, and according to Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News, the maximum value of the contract could be $63 million. This is a guy who has had some injury history, who has been injured in the past, and I don't know anything for sure, obviously, but I'm just kind of speculating that maybe the Rangers are like, yeah, we don't really know about you doing that whole World Baseball Classic thing. Like, we're not really entirely sure about that. And, there are a lot of teams that feel this way, and there are quite a few players that, the rosters could be a little better than they have been in the past. But, I mean, there is some real star power on Team USA. I thought the Rangers might have a little bit more representation on Team USA, specifically in the, Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher on earth, and so I would have thought he might consider it. And I think if he wanted to do it, then the Rangers would be like, all right, well, I guess you can go do it. But he is not going to be on the roster. The pitching it's fine. It's not great, though. It's a little lackluster, if we're being completely honest. The ace of this staff, I'd say, is, well, it's Miles Michaelis. Maybe you want to give it to Lance Lynn. There's also going to be Clayton Kershaw and Adam Wainwright on this staff as well. This is a joint venture between Major League Baseball and the Players Association that put this on, so it has the full support of the league and the players. It's just the individual teams are a little bit more careful about which players they let go out there. But if you're looking at the position players, this Team USA is obviously, it's Team USA. It's going to be friggin' stacked, but it's just so stacked, so insanely stacked. Catcher, you have JT Realmuto and Will Smith, 2 of the best in the game. And then your third catcher is Kyle Higashioka, who's not even the best catcher on his team. That's Jose Trevino, but that's fine. You look at the infield and you have, all-stars MVP candidates like Arenado and Goldschmidt, an actual MVP in Goldschmidt. I think he actually did win it this year. Then you have Trey Turner, Pete Alonso, Tim Anderson as well, and then Bobby Witt Jr., who is pretty good. I would have thought that maybe Marcus Semien or Corey Seager would think about playing for Team USA, because I think Seager would be the best shortstop on this team pretty comfortably. I mean, having an infield and Marcus Semien, I think, could start at second base. I mean, maybe Trey Turner gets the nod because he had a fantastic season. Tim Anderson is a great choice. Definitely no hate there. I think he's probably going to end up playing shortstop, and then they'll have Bobby Witt Jr. off the bench and Trey Turner at second base, which, again, if your infield is Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado on the corners, and then up the middle it's Tim Anderson and Trey Turner, that's really, really, really freaking good. Then the outfield, they have Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, Kyle Tucker, Kyle Schwarber, Jeff McNeil, and Cedric Mullins. They were going to have Bryce Harper, but he had an adjusted Tommy John surgery this winter, so he is going to be out until about the middle of the season, which is a real bummer because the Rangers are playing the Phillies on opening day, so the Rangers won't get to see Bryce Harper on opening day. But yeah, that's a darn shame. But Mark DeRosa is going to be the manager there. Brian McCann is going to be a bench coach. Ken Griffey Jr. is going to be the hitting coach. Fantastic. Andy Pettit is going to be the pitching coach. This is an absolutely stacked team. I'm very, very excited about that. But there are some other teams that are absolutely stacked as well. Venezuela is going to have some pretty good hurlers as well. Jesus Luzardo of Miami is going to be there. Luis Garcia of, I believe, the Astros. Pablo Lopez is going to be there. Ranger Suarez is going to be there on Team Venezuela. And Herman Marquez as well as Jose Alvarado. So Team Venezuela's got some really, really good pitching. Salvador Perez, Omar Narvaez, and Robinson Chirinos behind the dish. Andres Jimenez is going to be there. Gleyber Torres, Jose Altuve, Luis Arias. Going to be very, very fun to watch them. Ronald Acuna Jr. in the outfield. Anthony Santander, David Peralta, and Miguel Cabrera is going to DH for them there. Puerto Rico is not quite as stacked as it's been in years past, but I still think this is going to be a pretty good team. Former Ranger great Alex Claudio is going to be in the pen for them. They also have Jose Barrios, Jorge Lopez. They have also got, of course, Edwin Diaz, the infielder, Edwin Diaz, Javi Baez. They also got Francisco Lindor, but they do not have old Twins shortstop Carlos Correa. He is not going to participate like we thought. Maybe that injury it's what's keeping him from being able to participate. Maybe the Twins are like, okay, well, you aren't quite as healthy as we thought. So yeah, we're not quite fully comfortable with you going out there. But on Team Canada, we have Matt Brash, we have Mitch Bratt, the Rangers prospect. Cal Quantrill should be a pretty decent team in terms of pitching. They've also got a few familiar names in Tyler O'Neill of St. Louis. They also have Freddie Freeman, who I always kind of forget is Canadian. Bo Naylor at catcher, and former Ranger first round pick, and in the, I believe that was the Mike Trout draft, that was Kellen Deglin, is also going to be behind the plate. But then you get to the Dominican, which is really just absolutely stacked and might be the best roster on here. You have a former Ranger, Rafael Montero. You have Sandy Alcantara at the top of that staff. Hector Neris is there. Obviously, Jose Leclerc, Johnny Cueto, Christian Javier, Diego Castillo, Brian Abreu. Like, this pitching staff is just absolutely stacked from top to bottom. Francisco Mejia and Gary Sanchez are going to be the catchers. On the infield, they have Jeremy Pena, they have Rafi Devers, they have Robinson Cano, Vladdy Jr., Wander Franco, Willie Adames, Gene Segura, Ketel Marte, Manny Machado. Like, it's just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And in the outfield, oh yeah, it's casual. They just have Eloy Jimenez, Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez, and Teoscar Hernandez. Like, this might be the best team in the tournament. Like, it might be better than Team USA. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Japan has got Of course, they have Shohei Ohtani. They also have Yu Darvish pitching for them. And by the way, Yu Darvish just signed a 6-year, $108 million contract extension with the San Diego Padres. So he was going to be $108 million. He was going to be a free agent at the end of the year. I was hoping for a potential reunion with the Rangers, but that's not happening. He is going to pitch with San Diego, unless he's traded, until he is, I believe, 43 years old. Coming up, we're going to look at people who are not 43 years old and will not be 43 for a long time, some top prospects, and some pitcher rankings. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. This year, the only app that you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We are so excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they are the #1 sportsbook in America. It's FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from money line to point spread to who will score a touchdown. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. And best of all, you can get paid your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/LockedOn to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Now, let's take a look at these top 100 prospect rankings. The Rangers have a very good farm system. I'd venture to say almost consensus, a top 10 system in baseball. The only ranking that I saw that I looked in depth at as terms of a general farm ranking was ESPN. They had the Rangers as the 8th best farm. Last year, they had them as the 10th best farm. I feel pretty good about that. That's about where they should be. The top end depth, I mean, they have an absolute gem in Evan Carter, and I believe Josh Jung is also an absolute gem. But in terms of the depth, they have a lot of guys at top 30 where I feel like there is at least 15 future impact MLB players in there, whether that's guys in the pen, whether that's everyday starters. There are a lot of future big leaguers in this system. Now, let's start with Baseball America, who had 3 Rangers in their top 100. They had Evan Carter at 26, Josh Jung at 59, and Owen White at 66. MLB Pipeline, which was the most generous to the Rangers. They also were the only one who didn't have Evan Carter at the top of their list. They had 6 Rangers prospects in their top 100. They still haven't unveiled their top 30 for the Rangers in 2023. But they at least have their top 6 because they got 6 guys in the top 100, which is more than anywhere else. They have Josh Jung at 34. They have Evan Carter at 41. Owen White at 66, exactly where Baseball America had him. Luisangel Acuna, this is the only list that he's on. He is at 71 on their list. Jack Leiter at 78. Brock Porter at 94. This is the only list that Brock Porter is on as well. I'm not surprised that he's only on one list because he hasn't thrown a professional pitch just yet. He hasn't pitched at all in any league at all. He's just coming out of high school, so there were not exactly a whole lot of eyes on him, but MLB really, really likes Brock Porter, and I think they also have Jack Leiter the highest of anybody on their list. There's only one other top 100 that even has Jack Leiter in there, and that is the next one on this list. We have The Athletic. Keith Law did his top 100 prospect rankings. Now, normally I kind of view prospects a lot differently than Keith Law. We have like different ideals of what we value in prospects, but I feel like he's pretty spot on this year, and I'm not just saying that because he's very generous to the Rangers in his top 100. 4 Rangers on this list. He has Evan Carter at 53, which is the lowest of anybody, any of these 4 lists. I was looking for Fangraphs, and I don't think they've released their top 100 prospect rankings just yet, so I would have included them there, but I did not see it, and I don't think they've unveiled it just yet. So The Athletic had Carter at 53, Josh Jung at 56, Owen White at 70, and Jack Leiter at 92. I think Leiter definitely obviously fell off, had a really bad first year, but again, it's his first year in professional baseball, I should say, not organized baseball. That would be really crazy if that was his first year in organized baseball. But I think that everyone dropping him completely off the list, I think 78 might be a little bit too high, but I think somewhere in the 90s, I think just staying on that list is a great sign for him. But yeah, I think that he definitely took a step back this year. And Owen White, I think, definitely should be ahead of him on these prospect lists. And yep, everyone has him ahead of Leiter in their rankings. ESPN has Evan Carter at 29, Josh Jung at 38, and Owen White at 87. They also gave Jonathan Ornelas and Luisangel Acuna honorable mentions, which is really exciting. I'm surprised that Ornelas got a shout out, that he is that high on their list. I loved what Ornelas did this year. And one last list. I don't think I had mentioned this one just yet, but Baseball Prospectus, surprisingly low on the Rangers system. I might have to fight Grant for this. They have 2 Rangers on their list, the fewest of any of these publications. They have Evan Carter at 22, which is the highest he is on any of these lists. And the last one is Josh Jung at 100. At 100? That is completely surprising. They also have 101, so he's not the last player on their list. Alex Ramirez, an outfielder for the New York Mets, is the last player on this list, but Josh Jung being 13 spots below his younger brother Jace, who is a second base prospect in the Detroit Tigers system at 86, that is surprising, and I think that is just wrong. I don't know why they are this low on him. Last year, they were significantly higher on him. Granted, he had, the injuries this year. And I mean, he had a little bit more swing and miss. They had him at 31 last year. 31 to drop to 100 after a year where he made it to the freaking big leagues. I don't understand it at all. Josh Jung had a fantastic year. Yeah, there were some struggles at the big league level. Yeah, there was the injury, but it's not a recurring thing. It's a shoulder injury. It derailed most of his season. He was supposed to be out for the entire year, but he came back. He worked back and had a fantastic minor league season while he was still basically rehabbing an 866 OPS, and those 135 plate appearances absolutely skyrocketed his power numbers. I mean, in 2021, he had fantastic power numbers as well. Those 19 home runs in 78 games. This year at the big league level, he hit 5 dingers in 102 plate appearances at the big league level while handling his own. It was still basically just then coming back and being ready to come back from injury. I don't understand him being this low on their top 100. I don't understand him falling off that much, and I'm a little surprised that Leiter and I'm not surprised that Leiter was that far down, but that Owen White didn't get more love. I know that Grant Grant Schiller is their Rangers guy, and he was not able to see Owen White in person, so that is he said that was pretty much one of the few reasons why he is not over Jack Leiter in their rankings. They have Evan Carter 1, Josh Jung 2, Leiter, Owen White, and Luisangel Acuna. They were really, really high on Luisangel Acuna. I think they were the first one that I saw putting him that high, but we talked with Grant a whole bunch of times, and he really, really loved Acuna. They were pretty high on Porter, having him at 6, which is pretty high, but I believe that's where MLB has him, the 6th in their top 100. But I'm just kind of surprised with how much Grant likes this system, how good he feels about the depth of it, and we've talked about Jack Leiter a billion times. He and I have on this podcast, off the podcast, and he's like, it was a bad year, but it's not like raise all the red flags and he sucks, he's washed, and he's going to be terrible. Like, not fall all the way off the top 100 list. Like, that's just, it feels really, really reactionary. But I also do love that they have Carter all the way at 22. There seems to be quite a few discrepancies on where people have him. Generally, Baseball Prospectus and Baseball America are some of the guys who I think they have really, really solid opinions on guys. I think Grant does a great job with them, and Sam Hale, who I don't know if he's still there, but he was there for a while. Both those guys were kind of their Rangers eyes on guys, and they do a really good job of seeing everybody and debating very well, and I very highly respect their opinions. But I mean, having only 2 Rangers prospects in the top 100 is kind of a red flag. I don't really agree with it. And I think that Grant probably just got outvoted shouting about how much he likes Luisangel Acuna, because I know he really, really loves him. They were also really, really high on Duran last year, higher than a lot of other people were, and I really liked and respected them for that. But Carter being up there in the top 30 of 3 different publications, I'm surprised he wasn't higher on MLB Pipeline, and I'm surprised that they had Josh Jung ahead of him. Carter being all the way down at 53 in The Athletic, that's kind of where I say, Keith Law, you really need to get some more eyes on Evan Carter, because that guy is going to be an absolute stud. He is going to rise very, very highly in these rankings. I'm surprised that White wasn't in BP's top 100. That's the only top 100 that he wasn't on. Acuna, I thought he might make another list, either Baseball America or ESPN, or just somebody putting him on there. ESPN clearly saw him, thought he's pretty good, but not quite good enough. Again, them having Ornelas on their honorable mentions list is really, really exciting. Coming up, we're going to look at another ESPN list and some questions and concerns I have about it and about the strength of this Rangers rotation. But first, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat but you don't want all the fat and calories, then you have got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays. I know my goal is to eat a little bit healthier this year. And if you're like me and if you want to eat healthier, but you don't want to sacrifice on taste, and I really, really hate eating just things that taste like garbage, even if they are good for me. Built Bars are good for you, and they taste absolutely delicious. They come in amazing flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. They're covered in 100% chocolate, and you can go get yourself a box of Built Bars at built.com. They've got free shipping through Valentine's Day, or if you're wanting to go pick them up at the store, you don't want to wait for them to be shipped to you, then you can go to your nearest Walmart or Sam's Club and pick yourself up a box. They are delicious. You've got to try some Built Bars. You can thank me later. Now, let's look at another list from ESPN. This is just the part of the preseason. This is a transition in my Rangers fandom that is I've been looking forward to for a long time. I mean, my fandom kind of started in 2010 when the Rangers were good, and so for the longest time, when I was actually like rabidly watching every single game, reading every single thing that I could find about them, like they were good for the longest time, and it feels like not that long ago, but it's been a while. It has been 7 years since the Rangers have made the postseason or had a winning record, and I am ready for that change, for this Rangers team to be good and to be looking at things to get mad about, people not respecting the Rangers. And this ESPN ranking by old Bradford Doolittle, ESPN staff writer, released earlier this week. This has caused me to get in a tizzy for people not respecting the Rangers. He did a way too early ranking of top rotations in Major League Baseball. The top 3 makes sense. It starts with the Yankees. I think they've probably got the best rotation in baseball. They're going to be really top heavy. They got Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon, and then their 3, 4, 5 is Nestor Cortez, Luis Severino, and Frankie Montes. That's really darn good. They also have Clark Schmidt, Domingo Germán, and Diego Garcia as their depth pieces. The Brewers at 2 with Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. They're incredible, and their depth is very, very good. And the Mets being at 3 with Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. Then they have Jose Quintana, Carlos Carrasco, Kodai Senga, David Peterson, Tyler Megill, and Joey Lucchesi. That's solid. Braves 4, Phillies 5, sure. Astros 6. Okay, I can see how you're putting these teams ahead of the Rangers. I mean, none of these teams has a pitcher that is quite as good as the Rangers. I kind of forgot about the Phillies signing Taijuan Walker, but I mean, the rest of their rotation, they've got Andrew Painter coming up there, who is one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball, maybe the top pitching prospect. According to Lindsey Crosby, he has him as the top right-handed pitching prospect in all of baseball. That's fine. I think Mick Abel is also one of those prospects that is coming up through the system. So also a guy who is on their list. But then you look at the White Sox, and they have Dylan Cease and Lance Lynn. Okay, sure. Lucas Giolito. They have Mike Clevenger on here, who is almost assuredly not going to pitch after his domestic violence incident that is underway, that is being investigated, that they signed him knowing that the domestic violence investigation was ongoing. And I can't really understand not doing your due diligence there. Just asking Major League Baseball, like, hey, we're about to sign this guy. Is there anything going on with him? He's kind of a known degenerate around baseball, known not super great guy, and not doing your due diligence feels really embarrassing there. If Michael Kopech and Davis Martin, Jimmy Lambert, Jonathan Stiver, like, fine. Dylan Cease was absolutely amazing last year, but their rotation has a lot of problems with not going deep into games. Lance Lynn has been hurt. Unfortunately, he's been pretty decent when he's been with them, but since the Rangers traded him there, he has not been nearly as durable as he was with Texas. Lucas Giolito had a really down year last year. I think he's going to be really darn good this year, and Kopech really cannot go deep into games either, just like Dylan Cease. Both of those guys are electric when they're on the mound, but they are not super efficient with their pitch counts and not able to go super deep into games. Then you get past that. I mean, Davis Martin, Jimmy Lambert, Jonathan Stewart, none of those guys are anyone who really, really scares me. Then at 8, they have the Blue Jays with Alek Manoah and Gossman 1-2, and then Bassett at 3. All right, that's fine. I mean, Jose Barrios had a really, really bad year last year. They've also got a couple other guys in Yusei Kikuchi, Hyunjin Ryu, Nate Pearson, Mitch White. Fine. I can see how you're squinting your eyes and saying that's better. The Dodgers at 9, the Rays at 10, okay. But the one that really pisses me off, the Rangers are at 12, by the way. The one that really just grinds my gears is who they have at 11. They have the Boston Red Sox as the 11th best rotation in baseball. That is ahead of the Rangers, the Marlins, the Padres, the Giants, the Twins, the Angels, the Mariners. And the Guardians, too. I just don't understand it. I don't understand how they can have the freaking Boston Red Sox up here this high. They have certain different things that they are ranking in here. They have average game score, dominance rank, consistency rank. And if you look at where the Rangers compare in almost all of these, the Rangers have much higher numbers. They have a higher average game score. They have a higher dominance rank. The Rangers' dominance rank is 3. I don't know exactly what he is measuring there, just best starts being amazing. And consistency, the Rangers are at 11, and the Red Sox are at 26. I mean, Nick Pivetta is the ace of this staff. Nick freaking Pivetta. They also signed Corey Kluber. Chris Sale is on the roster. He might participate, depending on the health of his elbow, which I think is still attached to his torso and still occasionally throws baseball. Then they have Garrett Whitlock, Brian Bayo, James Paxton, who has thrown, 3 innings in the last, half decade, it feels like. Tanner Houck and Cutter Crawford, who was pretty terrible last year. And they lost their best starting pitcher. They lost the best pitcher on their staff. They actually lost their 2 best pitchers from last year. They lost Michael Wacha, and they also lost Nate Eovaldi to the Rangers. And the Rangers staff, obviously you have Jacob freaking deGrom, best pitcher in baseball. Then you have Martin Perez, John Gray, Nate Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney. And then your depth behind that is really darn good in Jake Odorizzi, Dane Dunning, and Glenn Otto. This Rangers rotation is not 12th. I mean, you have the number 1 who is better than everybody else in baseball. People keep forgetting that when he is on the mound, he is the best freaking pitcher in baseball. Nate Eovaldi had a fantastic season, a top 4 Cy Young finish just in 2021. Martin Perez was absolutely phenomenal last year. Absolutely phenomenal. And I think a lot of people are expecting him to regress way more than I think he will. And if your number 5 is Andrew Heaney in your rotation, who's coming off a fantastic year, albeit a shortened one with some injuries, that is one of the best rotations in baseball. It's definitely one of the deepest. I think the Rangers have, I think Heaney as a number 5 starter is probably either the best or the second best number 5 starter in baseball. I mean, looking at these lists, I mean, maybe Jeffrey Springs is a little bit better on the Rays. They have an insane amount of depth. You look over at the Dodgers, Dustin May is listed as their number 5 starter. Maybe that's a little bit better, but I mean, you say Kikuchi, Nate Pearson, he's better than them for Toronto. If you look at the Astros, who's their number 5 starter, they have Lance McCullers Jr., who I think will be a little higher in the rotation than number 5, or Hunter Brown. Maybe you start to squint a little bit there, but I mean, we saw the depth problems with the Phillies' rotation this year on display. I think that he he's probably going to have a better season than Carlos Carrasco, who I think will end up being the number 5 starter on the Mets. If you look at the Yankees, Frankie Montas probably just a little bit better. The Brewers, I don't know that much about Aaron Ashby. Wade Miley's a solid rotation piece there. But you look at the Braves, and the Braves who have some really good top-end talent in Kyle Wright and Max Fried. Mike Soroka is solid, but again, coming off several injured seasons. I just don't understand putting the Rangers all the way down there at 12. It really, really bothers me. This is going to be one of the strongest points of this Rangers team. I mean, what are they going to rank the Rangers infield offensive potential in like the 15s? Like, there are a lot of good rotations in baseball, but the Rangers, I know it's hard and shocking to get your head around, but the Rangers are going to have one of the best rotations in baseball, one of the best rotations they've ever had, and one of the deepest. And I think it's high time they start getting their respect. I don't know what old Bradford is trying to do with these rankings here, Mr. Doolittle. I wish he would do a little bit more research and see how the Rangers have one of the best rotations in all of baseball. But it's fun to be a Rangers fan again, because you can actually go looking at articles like this and power rankings and stuff, and instead of them ranking the Rangers badly and being like, oh, well, yeah, my team's bad, of course they rank them bad, you can be like, no. My team's actually good now, and it's about time for you to freaking respect them. And I'm hoping this year, with spring training that starts next week, people will actually start doing that. But thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he is going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Y'all, this is the last weekend without pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training. Enjoy it. Baseball is just around the corner, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.